Introducing Romanticism and the Mariner, a quick introduction to the Romantic period and the Coleridge poem Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
It's me. I'm filming the video outside because it's a beautiful October afternoon. It's nice and cool. It's supposed to maybe rain later. But I thought it would be a great little setting because we're going to start our unit into Romanticism this week. We're first going to start reading the poem Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and then we're going to move into our novel study of Frankenstein. Very exciting. So anyway, the Romantics were into celebrating nature, really kind of finding some connections between the natural and spiritual and supernatural world. So what a perfect place to make this video, aside from being outside. So sit back and relax, and let's get started.
And should have some sort of strong spiritual connection to nature. Probably because there was such a turn from the agricultural age going into the industrial age. Romantics were not huge fans of urban societies, so I think that possibly might be where that emphasis of nature, comes into play. There was an interest in the common man. Romantics had a very strong response to emotions, senses, and feelings. They believed in celebrating the outcast, whether that be just a regular kind of no-name person to maybe like an unsung hero. They believed that imagination was the best response to change. Kind of the idea of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, they didn't believe in that. They felt like that there was always this use for change, and that through innovation and through one's intuition, dynamic change could occur. Okay, so is Romanticism love? Is the Romantic period about laying in the grass with your loved ones and gazing up into the stars and whispering sweet nothings to each other, which as high school students you should not be doing. You need to focus on your studies. But anyway, it's not really about, like a star-crossed lover idea. Romantics celebrated the individual. They did express deep, powerful emotions, but it was more kind of emotions to things that had not been discussed before. They like to question. They really like to talk about this deep spiritual connection that we should have with nature. William Wordsworth, who was a great poet of this time, wrote this line in his work called Tintern Abbey. The line says, "Nature never did betray the heart that loved her." So there was this feeling of appreciating the beauty that surrounds us. So although there is a love there, and we will look at in these poems some sort of like emotions dealing with relationship, just what I really want you guys to remember is that there is just this strong connection with nature. Okay, so just kind of a quick list of some of the well-known Romantic poets of this time period. William Blake, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, he's the one that wrote Rime of the Ancient Mariner, William Wordsworth, Lord Byron, John Keats, and Percy Bysshe Shelley. Shelley was actually married to Mary Shelley, who was the author of Frankenstein. So these are just 6 of the most well-known, probably most well-read Romantic poets. You will be given an assignment at the end of this video where you're going to need to choose a poem from the Romantic period. And I would start with, something from one of these 6 poets. Okay, so let's move on to just a brief introduction of Rime of the Ancient Mariner that was written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. One thing to make note of is that Mariner is a narrative poem, but it's a frame tale or a frame story. So we have this idea of a story within the story. The poem starts out where the author is telling about how this mariner is at a wedding and how he stops a wedding guest and begins telling about this voyage. So we have the outside frame is this introduction of the mariner appearing at a wedding. Nobody knows who he is, how he's kind of like this old, gray-bearded, crazy man with these crazy eyes, and how he stops this wedding guest to tell of his inside story, the inside frame, what happened to him when he made this fateful decision on an ocean voyage. Okay, so not to waste your time by repeating myself, but I always have students who get a little confused with this poem because it kind of goes back and forth from the mariner at the wedding talking to his guest back to his ocean voyage. So again, the poem starts out where there's this mariner and he's described as kind of like this old gray-haired, gray-bearded loon. He has like these crazy eyes and he stops this wedding guest and he just feels compelled to tell him this story, and the guest is so mesmerized by his crazy eyes that he has no choice but to sit and listen. And then the mariner starts talking about, what happens on this ocean voyage that he was a part of when he decides to shoot this albatross, which is this great bird. And because of his decision to shoot this bird, all the repercussions that happen afterwards and all the suffering that took place because of his decision. So the poem's going to kind of go back and forth between the mariner talking to the wedding guest and then what happens on the actual voyage. Some themes that we're going to see in this poem. The idea that man is a sinful creature, that man should respect God's creation, that guilt and justice hound offenders, that all creatures are worthy in some way, the idea of forgiveness and penance, and then the idea of suffering.